Do you want to catch the biggest coho of the season right now in Puget Sound? Well, I got my top 3 rigs that I'm using in the last few days of the saltwater openers and how you can maximize them to catch these big B-Run fish. Let's check it out. So we're talking the end of September, right where we're at. We have a couple more days left in Area 8-2, a few more days in Area 9, and a little bit longer in Area 10. Not a lot of fishing left in the saltwater options for the salmon. With that being the case though, this is some of the best time to be fishing the saltwater because we've had one rain event in about a month span time. And that rain event did push some more fish. It flushed some into the rivers, but now you're in the time frame of some of the biggest fish of the year coming into the sound. These big B-Run fish are ready to go, and this is the time to chase them. I like to run 2 different setups here in Puget Sound, especially for this time of the season. A downrigger setup and a dropper setup. Now the downrigger allows you really easy get to the fish and you're fishing. That dropper setup is typically for when we have 3 people or more on the boat, and that dropper setup is kind of mid-water calm in the prop wash. It definitely works very well here in Puget Sound. So I'm going to break down my favorite ways to go about setting these rigs up. Now the downrigger setup first is probably where I'll start here. I have not stopped using this spin fish since they came out in 2023. It's amazing how well this thing works with the action it puts off, the ability to put bait inside of it. This thing's always running for you. It has been a confidence booster for me. So I'm running one of these spin fish, and typically this color, the rotten banana, has been one of my favorites for Puget Sound coho. The other one that just came out this year, similar idea concept with being able to open up the cavity and put bait inside. This is the Yakima bait cut plug. A very good imitation of a cut plug herring. Has more of a bullet roll. Very, very effective on how that looks in the water, as you can see there. That's essentially how we're spinning. Gives a really good presentation and profile. That Seahawk color is my second favorite. So if I'm running 2 downrigger rods, I got one with the rotten banana and one with the Seahawk. And that's really all that's going on to start the day. Flashers, you don't need anything too crazy, but I've really come to love green at this time of the year. It works really well in the morning with some glow. So I know for some people, they like the Pro Trolls with the blinkies. I have them. They work very well. This is one of mine that I make. Works really well too. Have had a lot of success running that one. But the normal 11-inch flasher works really well with those Yakima bait spin fish and the cut plugs. And that's essentially my number 1 bait that I have at least on one of my rods. Now what's awesome is then if you have the option for a second person to fish, you can run an entirely different setup altogether and have the fish tell you what they want. Some days they don't want the spin fish or that setup as much as maybe a different one. So I run the one side with the spin fish or the cut plug, and the other side I like to run this guy. This is the Purple Onion Hotspot Flasher. Probably my all-time favorite flasher when the sun hits the water. It does so well with the UV. I don't typically have this not on a rod somewhere, but I run 30 inches of 40-pound leader to a hoochie of some sort. And this one was our ticket last year. This is a needlefish squid, and I have an Olympic tackle needlefish fly shoved up on the inside. So essentially, you have the UV of the squid skirt itself, and then the glow and the flash of the Olympic tackle fly, a couple Radical Glow UV beads, and there you have it. 2 5/0 hooks, and we're rocking. What's really cool about that rig is it's so simple. And I told you in my last video, I started off doing a lot of the bait strips for herring and did that all the time for many, many years with a lot of success. And they do work very well, so don't get me wrong. But having that canned tuna in a bag like this, just your standard bumblebee tuna in oil, and being able to take whether it's to spin fish and stuff it with it, or we even got to the point last year fishing the Coho Derby of just shoving this inside the bag, switching it around, and that's all the scent. I didn't do anything more, put it in the water, and again, that was one of our best days I've ever had on the boat. So one rod runs a squid and a flasher, one rod runs the spinfish and a flasher, and then we start talking about that dropper rod. So we're typically targeting, in the mornings at 50 feet to 80 feet, depending on where the marks are. We're chasing them with the downriggers. I got one rod in that 60, 80, and then I got one rod in that 100 foot. It ended up being last year this time. 100 foot was seemingly around the time we started finding a lot of those bigger fish. Really all depends on the day, the weather, everything that's happening, right? So, dropper rod, my new favorite way to fish. So this has been so cool because I got to learn how to do this legitimately with the sockeye fishing this year, to run droppers without downriggers and really dial in how the technique works. So Zach, I really appreciate it for this, bud. But what I like to run is a dropper setup. So on both of my downrigger setups, I'm running the same old tried and true Salmon Extreme Series on Velocity, paired up with a Shimano TR 100 here. Had this thing for 25 years. Great little reel, but these rods are phenomenal. Work great on the downrigger fishing, and I use them all year round for everything else. So having a good versatile rod like that works great. And then we start talking this dropper fishing. So the difference that you have here is a downrigger rod's going to be very parabolic. It's going to have a huge amount of bend to load up on the downrigger and weight. Okay, but this dropper setup, it's a little different. You're fishing with heavier gear, anywhere between 8 to 24 ounces. So it depends on the current, it depends on what's going on, but this has become one of my new favorite ways to do it because it's so effective and so easy. To deploy gear with droppers, you're in and out of the water in so much less time than what you were doing with the downrigger. So it's really easy to set up. You really don't have to have a lot to do it. You just have to have a heavier rod. Now this is a 10'6" Akuma SST, and I'm just reading the specs on this so you understand. It's a 5 to 50 pound test, heavy power with a medium fast action. So it does handle that heavier weight. And how we're running this is a Slido. I like these little rubber beads just to protect my knots, but this main line is only 20-pound test, and I'm running that little slider setup to a swivel, and then I'm making my own droppers. 18 to 24 inch, and this is a quick change rig. And that's important to me because everything here can be detached and stuck away. Now what's nice about that is when you don't have to have all this gear hanging off, you don't have to have a huge heavy weight that's going to hit somebody. But then what are we talking about for gear? Okay, a Big Al's Fish Flash has become my favorite one to run just off the back of the boat. On these droppers, it's so effective, truly, because a lot of the time you don't even think about it when the downrigger rods go off, and you're going to end up getting a double, and then you get a triple because of that back rod. And sometimes that back rod is all they want. So I like to run something that gives some flash, like this guy here. I will read you the color scheme because this is a pretty dang cool one that I found. It's called Chrome Killer. It's an 8-inch size triangle Al's Fish Flash. That contrast of those two colors is one of my favorites for the saltwater in that top 50 feet of water column. Remind you, now it's got the chrome back. So this thing is going to absolute flash really, really good. Now, what are we using behind that? And I think this has been the key ticket because I've been using these forever, okay? But combining them on the dropper setup has made them even more effective and confidence level wise go up. Because if you've ever watched some of my older videos, you got to see coho and a jellyfish. It was the most insane thing to put an underwater camera down and watch these fish chase these wicked lures through the jellyfish up and around, and they could not leave these things alone. The wicked lure is one of my favorite lures on the boat. Year round, it's always on a rod, and this time of the year, I love it on the dropper. Now, there's two colors that have been really, really effective for me on the coho front. This coho killer in the green, it's a glow green, works really well, but there's also the orange. The orange guy is so good too. In fact, last year that was our big ticket. During the Derby, we had 3 double headers and 1 triple. And that one that we got off the triple was one of the biggest fish we got of the day. Now, granted, at the time, just like it is this year, Area 9 is hatchery only. So we ended up hooking these big wild fish. I had to let them all go. But I tell you what, there's nothing more fun. And that's part of the draw, I think, for me with the dropper setup, of watching that back rod just start bucking like crazy and that line peeling off. They absolutely hammer that dropper setup. And having these spinners with the wickeds absolutely does so well. Now here's what I'm going to show you. And now this is Mike. I'm going to give you full credit for this, because I want to say this was a couple years ago that you showed a lot of different people on the wicked page how to do it. So you take your wicked lure, okay? It's great. This has 6 feet of leader out of the package, and it works so well at that length. So I don't do anything with the leader at all. I let it be this full 6 foot, but you have a unweighted spinner. Fish is so effective and so killer. And here's what I do. You're going to take the spinner blade off. You're going to take that top bead off, and you're going to pop the squid off here for just a moment. And don't hook yourself, because that hurts. We'll need this little guy, a P-line 2.5 inch insert. We're going to take this insert and we're going to thread it down the line. And you can add a double hook. It definitely helps increase your success of getting that land ratio. But what I like to do, and I noticed how much of a difference that does. So there's added to the rig. Squid goes back on. Bead. And then your blade. And I always tie these wickeds on a swivel system. But when this all comes together, it is the best of all worlds, because now you have the glow of the squid, the flash of that tinsel skirt on the inside, and that blade does exactly what it's supposed to do behind that thing. Look at that. Okay? Now, combination of the two, when you're running this, dropping 10, 12 ounces to start, and you're fishing it behind the boat, run 50 foot. Troll for a little longer. If you're marking fish differently, you can play around. But typically I start at 50 feet on the drop back, and then I start playing around after that, 70 feet, 80 feet. Depending if there's people around you, you don't want to be running that line too far back. But I will tell you, I probably have some footage I'm going to have to dive through to show you guys another time, but it is so cool to watch that thing and absolutely get annihilated. So those 3 techniques, the cut plug, the spin fish, because you can put all that bait and scent, then you have the hoochie and flasher, and then you have that third rod, the shotgun dropper. That with a wicked, those 3 right now are your best ways to really do some success. Now I will touch base on 2 scents that I really find this time of the year to be a great effective add-on. I know there's a lot of others that people use, but herring and anise have been really, really good to me, along with that tuna. So what I like to do, as I showed you, I dunk my baits, I stuff them where I can, and they all get the tuna. And then when they're out of that, I'll put a couple more drops just of added mojo. It has been so fun to see this come to life, to how successful it's been, and frankly, how good the fishing's been the last few years. So we've been really blessed with this. It's been some of the best fishing for coho in the last couple of years, and I've really been so blessed to be able to get to experience. I want to hear from you guys, though, in the comments below. What are your top 3 lures to be running right now for coho? And I know I left a couple out that others like to use, and I use them too, so don't get me wrong. But these 3 usually stay on the rods because they're always catching fish. So hard to go away from that, right? All right, guys, if you want to see how you put this secret bait together with the tuna, you're going to want to watch this video right here because it's going to be a game changer for you. Tight lines and fish on!